Dallas Mavericks fans, MMFLs, and also just NBA fans all around the world. The Dallas Mavericks fell last night to the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland. Final score, Cleveland Cavaliers 121, the Dallas Mavericks 119. A game where Luka Doncic had, you're going to say an astonishing game. We know what Luka Doncic can do. 45 points, was about 14 assists, 9 rebounds. Kyrie Irving following up with about 30 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. This was the duo. They pretty much did what they're supposed to do. We know how this goes. But it was a game, the Dallas Mavericks, when you're playing on the road, you have to have things fall I guess you want to say fall into place for you sometimes. And one thing we saw last night was the Dallas Mavericks. It was a game where the Dallas Mavericks, I believe at one point of the game, the Dallas Mavericks go down 15 points. And to me, I was kind of worried because it becomes one of those buzzsaw games. I don't think it was one of those games where the Dallas Mavericks are still reeling from their last loss, snapping that 7-game win streak. But it was a game where you want to see the Dallas Mavericks, like I said in the last video, you want to see them have some resiliency, show some resiliency, show that they're not a team that's going to pretty much just buckle down if they have faced a little bit of adversity. So the Dallas Mavericks, you had an all-around performance. You had some guys be able to chip in and contribute yesterday. But again, after the Dallas Mavericks go down about 15 points, they start to fight back. And at that point, I'm going to say from the third quarter on to throughout the remainder of the game, it's an up and down game. The Dallas Mavericks did take very good control deep into the fourth quarter, later on in the fourth quarter. But Max Strus, a guy, again, talking about a streaky shooter. He's not a guy I'm even going to call a guy that I say you can pretty much have to worry about night in, night out. But it's a guy yesterday, I believe he goes 4-4 on threes in a small stretch of the fourth quarter and puts them right back in the mix. I'm going to say right now, I'm not one of the people that talks about referees, talks about the way referees like to get themselves involved. But later on in that game, the referees, there was some terrible officiating. If you're an NBA fan, not even just a Dallas Mavericks fan, the Cleveland Cavaliers fan, if you're an NBA fan in general, that's some things that you need to be keeping a very close eye on. And you should say it should be worrying you a little bit because, again, we've seen some inconsistency in the refereeing and officiating throughout this entire season, so somewhat. Across the entire NBA. But yesterday, it was ugly. It was just bad calls. There was a terrible offensive foul called on Kyrie Irving. Arm gets hooked, and they called the offensive foul on him. Another turn where you're seeing Donovan Mitchell knock down a three-point shot. Jared Allen has a blatant moving screen. Is not called. And to me, when you start to have these issues in officiating, it's going to affect the entire product of the league because people already talk about, is this a rigged sport? Sports in general are rigged, but especially talking about the NBA, we do know we have a history of some of these officials getting themselves involved, and we're finding out years later they may have been tweaking things here and there. Maybe talk about a Tim Donaghy from years ago. But the Dallas Mavericks, unfortunately, at the end of the day, the results are going to show the Dallas Mavericks did lose and defeat. And I'm going to say, obviously, it's a lucky shot. Max Strus, like I said, goes 4-4 in a stretch on the fourth quarter that gets them right back into the game. But also, when you're looking at what happens, a 58-foot shot, a Hail Mary heave. The Dallas Mavericks, I believe P.J. Washington puts the ball in the basket with about maybe about 2 or 3 seconds, something like that. And I believe all of a sudden you see Max Strus just let it fly full court dang near. And you're looking up at the situation and all of a sudden nothing but net and the Dallas Mavericks fall. It was a game that you don't really want to try to put on anybody solely. It was a team effort. And to me, it was one of those games, it's a middle of the season game. You don't want to completely be, I guess you want to say, weary of this team going forward because at the end of the day, it's just one game of 82. But the Dallas Mavericks are now looking at a record of 33-25, 8th in the Western Conference right now. I believe now we're a full 1.5 games behind the 5th seed of the New Orleans Pelicans. And then now you're 8 games out of first. So the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to lock this thing back in. They will be facing off against the Toronto Raptors tonight. It's going to be a back-to-back. And this is going to be a game where the Dallas Mavericks have got to come in here and look at it as if it's do or die. And I'm going to say do or die in the mindset of you have got to get yourself back on track. The Western Conference has been very tight. It's been very, I'm going to say it's been very competitive this season. So you find yourself losing a game or two, a couple games, a few games in a row, and next thing you know, you might find yourself completely out of that 8th seed, or you find yourself just completely locked into a play-in tournament, which I'm sure the Dallas Mavericks don't want to be in. I will say right now, I have the confidence in this team going forward. If we do find ourselves in a play-in situation, I'm not speaking on that as if I want us to be there. I think that's where we should be guaranteeing or locking ourselves in as a fan base. But I feel like the Dallas Mavericks are very capable of going on a run, but they're going to have to get this thing back on track because now now you're looking at tonight is going to be against the Toronto Raptors. The very next game, March 1st, is going to be against the Boston Celtics. So this is going to be a game where the Dallas Mavericks have got to come in ready to handle business, because I don't want to see. So I guess you want to say the way you can kind of look at it is it could potentially lead to some doubt, and some doubt being in the sense of you still have some young guys that are not very, I guess you want to say very used to being on winning teams. You're looking at a guy like PJ Washington. He's been a contributor, and he had a nice solid game, I will say, overall last night, especially again on the defensive side of the ball, where we've seen him become accustomed to kind of building that reputation since he's joined the Dallas Mavericks as being one of our defensive lockdown kind of guys. But the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to get back on track, because you don't want to see a team with some key young guys start to have some doubts and some worry themselves, because we do know the Dallas Mavericks are still going to be asking themselves, Luka Doncic should be very well secure in an MVP candidate, and I guess you want to say secure as an MVP candidate. But if the team is not going to continue to stack some wins, we're going to ask ourselves, what exactly is this team's ceiling again? I don't want to continue to look up and see Luka Doncic in year 8, 9, 10 of his career, and for some reason we're always one game off. We're always one step off. We're always one bad turnover. We're always one missed free throw, one missed jump shot, one missed layup. Sometimes I don't want to keep looking up and seeing we have these rosters built for Luka Doncic, and they're somehow just always coming up short. I feel like this is probably one of the most talented teams, I will say, overall. And to me, it's unfortunate that we were not able to see Luka Doncic pretty much have, guess you want to say, a solid all-around team. I guess you want to say throughout so far early on in his career. Because at the end of the day, it's about the front office putting things where they need to be. You have your I guess you want to say your two spearheads. You have Luka Doncic, and you now have a Kyrie Irving back in the fold with this team. But you're going to have to put together the pieces that are going to get the job done. I'm literally at this point, it's one of those things where it's worrying, because it feels like it's just bad luck. And to me, that's one of those things where it's like what can go wrong will go wrong. I'm not ready to jump off a ship. It's just a 2-game losing streak. And things happen in the NBA. It's a game of momentum. You can't sit here and talk about basketball. It's a game of momentum. Teams are going to go on runs. Teams are going to go, I guess you want to say, sometimes just have a couple games where things cannot or just not happening to fall into place for you. But if we continue to just, I guess you want to say, chip away at this thing, the Mavericks should be okay. And to me, that's going to be starting off in this game tonight against the Toronto Raptors. Taking a look at the stat sheet from last night, PJ Washington with 11 points, 5 of 8 on field goals, 1 of 3 from the three-point line in 35 minutes, 3 steals, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, all-around game, 1 block by PJ Washington. I'm excited about his role going forward, because he's still a young developing player. And to me, I've always said, when the more versatile guys, I've always said the Dallas Mavericks need to continue to add versatile guys. We become very accustomed. We had guys like Reggie Bullock. You had your Dorian Finney-Smiths. You had guys that are pretty much your 3-and-D players. But I'm always of the mindset I want guys that can do more than one thing. That comes from driving to the basket and things of that such. So, and to me, we've seen a guy like Derrick Jones Jr. Pretty much he was holding down that starting lineup, and I guess you want to say that small forward position for the most part throughout the earlier part of the season. But yesterday, Derrick Jones Jr., I've said I want to see him get more minutes. To me, Tim Hardaway Jr. last night, he wasn't I guess you want to say detrimental to the team, because he wasn't forcing up shots. But in 26 minutes yesterday, 2 of 5 on field goals, 0 of 1 from the three-point line, 4 points. Tim Hardaway Jr., if he's not getting buckets, if he's not scoring for you, and to me, that's where you start to ask yourself, how much do we need Tim Hardaway Jr. on the court? Because we do know he's not a defensive presence, anything or of that mindset. Jaden Hardy, I talked about that. Jaden Hardy last night with only 5 minutes and 2 points. This is a guy I want to see, Tim Hardaway Jr. I want to see those minutes going down. Like I said, to me, Tim Hardaway Jr. should be about 15 minutes a game, and then you kind of just play from there. If he's hot, then you give him a little bit more. But I wanted to see Derrick Jones Jr. I want to see Jaden Hardy get a little bit more run last night, because you did have the opportunity to see if some of these guys could have maybe helped chip away a little bit more. Daniel Gafford only gets, in 7 minutes yesterday, 4 points, 2 rebounds. It was not a game where you saw him get anything. 2 of 3 on field goals. It was very efficient from him as usual, but it was not a game where you saw pretty much any of these big men having any of these big production or big results in this game. Although you do know the Cleveland Cavaliers have some solid big men themselves. You're talking about Evan Mobley, a nice solid game last night. 28 minutes. He has 12 points, 7 assists, 9 rebounds, a steal, 5 and 11 on field goals. And it was kind of like one of those games where they're just chipping away at it. Jared Allen. I'm a Texas Longhorn fan, so this is a guy I'm very accustomed to of his game. I'm very aware of his game. Jared Allen in 33 minutes yesterday. Solid big man. 19 points, 9 rebounds. He did have a block, 7 of 9 on field goals. It was one of those games where you're looking and seeing Derek Lively. He's starting to have some issues when it comes to these veteran games, but to me, it wasn't really anything he had. It was as if Derek Lively played a bad game or anything, but we did see their big men get a couple offensive rebounds, and to me, that's where they kind of were able to impose their will. I'm talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're able to impose their will a little bit sometimes on the offensive glass. And to me, if the Dallas Mavericks are going to be the team that we believe they can be, I want to see Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively continue to be engaged in these games. And to me, I'm going to ask, what exactly is Jason Kidd's view, I guess you want to say, of the 5 position for this team? Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, we've seen their minutes kind of up and down the last couple games. And then you're looking at Maxi Kleber playing 27 minutes yesterday. This is going to be where now of course, to me, yesterday was more circumstance. And sometimes you're looking for what matchups seem to be rolling that night. But I do not want to see Derek Lively continue to only get his 22 minutes. I don't want to see Daniel Gafford getting 7 minutes at any point. Yeah, we do know matchups are going to call for different things sometimes. And at the end of the day, we do have a lot of versatility, I guess you want to say, in our front court now from the big man position for your 4-5. We do have some versatility right now, but I want to continue to see Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively be able to stay engaged. Sometimes you have to just let them get rolling. Sometimes you have to let them get comfortable in the game, and you don't want to see them being pulled necessarily. Me personally, in my opinion, I don't want to see these guys just continue to be pulled just because they're kind of having a little bit of trouble early on in games. So the Dallas Mavericks, we're still in good position. Just go ahead and handle your business, man. It's the Toronto Raptors tonight. This is going to be a game where you're now going to say it's going to be a must-win. There's no other way to call it. You cannot find yourself in a 3-game losing streak, especially playing a back-to-back. Yeah, you're going to be tired. Yeah, you had to go through a little bit of adversity from the night before. An unfortunate, dang near a full-court shot that came from Max Strus, but you're going to now say, Dallas Mavericks, just get back on track. All it takes is one. All it takes is one win, and you can get yourself back rolling. The Boston Celtics are going to be the next opponent. So I said this is going to be a game, is a must-win against the Toronto Raptors tonight. But the Dallas Mavericks, you have Luka Doncic, you have Kyrie Irving. They both combined for 75 points last night. This is not anything to sneeze at because we know Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, this is pretty much what we're accustomed to getting from them. I guess you want to say almost at this point, night in, night out. Look at Donovan Mitchell yesterday, 31 points. 7 rebounds, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 turnovers. The Dallas Mavericks were very well in range to come out with the win. Just handle your business and you can get yourself right back in the fold of things in the Western Conference playoffs seeding, I guess you want to say. It seems at this point nobody really knows when exactly Dante Exum is going to be back in the fold of the backcourt rotation. So the Dallas Mavericks are still having to rely heavily on Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving when it comes to playmaking and setting guys up. As this goes forward, I can see the Dallas Mavericks still maybe being able to kick the tires on what potentially could be another ad. I think the deadline for a postseason buyout market, I believe before the postseason, is March 1st. So the Dallas Mavericks should be doing everything they can to maybe pull in a guy. I'm not sure exactly what the timetable is on Dante Exum. He was a guy that we saw earlier on in this season being very valuable to this team and to what the team's success that we start to find a little bit. But not having him in that mix, it definitely has weighed a little bit on a Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving. They're still getting back to that point where they're having to do too much, in my opinion. And sometimes you want them to be able, I want to say coast along, but at the end of the day, we do know those are our top guys. So yeah, you're going to rely on them heavily anyway. But we have got to continue to try to get healthy as we can be, and that starts with getting Dante Exum back maybe. But the Dallas Mavericks, again, tonight will face off against the Toronto Raptors in a back-to-back. I believe the time will be 6:30 p.m. Central. Handle your business. The next game is against the Boston Celtics. We know exactly the juggernaut that they've looked like this season and last few seasons, to be honest. So the Dallas Mavericks, you're gonna have to pull this one out. I'm not sure we can even call this, oh, just come out here and see what. No, you have got to win this game. This is a must-win against the Raptors tonight. The Dallas Mavericks are now sitting in the 8th seed. Like I said, still 33-25 record, but now 1.5 games out of the 5th seed. And again, you're talking about teams like the Pelicans. You're talking about the Kings sitting in the 7th seed right now, about a half game ahead of us. You're talking about the Phoenix Suns. The Dallas Mavericks are going to be in a battle with these teams going forward for playoff season. So handle your business, lock it in, and we'll see where the cards fall. I appreciate you guys for all the support. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share. We will be right back to talk about this game tomorrow. I appreciate you guys for all the support once again. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.